This is a pivotal moment in his administration because he's making a big bet here that these tariffs are going to re-industrialize the country.
Hello, welcome to Restoring America, a series of the Washington Examiner. I'm Tom Rogan. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure to subscribe and like wherever you're watching this. It's very important to us and we enjoy it greatly. Jeremiah Poff, my colleague, is joined with me today. Tariffs, your thoughts, Jeremiah?
It's Liberation Day, or this week. Yeah, Liberation Week. Trump is finally putting on the tariffs that he has threatened to put on since on the campaign and then started to do at the beginning of his administration, but then kind of sort of took a step back.
Right.
But then now he's actually doing it. And I think this is a pivotal moment in his administration because he's making a big bet here that these tariffs are going to re-industrialize the country. And it gives him a three and a half year runway to see how that's going to play out in the markets and in the economy. We'll see if it works. I have high hopes that it will. I think there needed to be this big shakeup in American trade policy. I think that the last 30, 40 years consensus has kind of, outstayed its time. It's a new, we've made a lot of mistakes in that time, especially when it came to China. But I think this is also Trump delivering on the promise that he made to the industrial communities of Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Ohio, that this is what, I'm going to end unfair trade. I'm going to protect your industries, and I'm going to bring back that manufacturing that was your lifeblood.
We're going to see if it works. Of course, a big test for that is the market reaction in the sense of 401ks. It's not just Wall Street bankers and the wealthy that are concerned about that. A lot of pension funds, for example, but also consumer goods prices.
Right.
If people's prices at the supermarket or the grocery store and Amazon, whatever it is, go up, I think there can be a real challenge for the president there of the degree to which it might stop him from, continue on this path and paring back.
It might, but this is something that Trump has been beating the tariff drum since before he ever ran for president.
Right.
You go back decades.
He cares about it too.
This is something that's very important to him, and it's one of the things where you can actually point to, this is an ideological thing for him. It's not just him being pragmatic, which he's, obviously does in a lot of other areas. I think that you spoke to the effects on the markets and then on consumer prices. But I think, again, with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, made a really interesting point last month where he said that the essence of the American dream is not access to cheap goods. And I think that's kind of the lodestar here that they're trying to follow. And I think Bessent's absolutely right. What we're trying to do here is build an economy where people can provide for their families and have a stable life where they own their home and they don't need to rely on multiple jobs. They're not scrounging on welfare, and those are all things that have come as part of an effect of the deindustrialization that happened over the last 45 years. And I think 45 years. And I think that the bet here is that this is going to, yes, there's going to be some pain on the price side. Yes, there's going to be some pain on the 401k side, but the benefit to the communities that help put Trump in office is going to vastly outweigh it, and it's going to make it very difficult for Democrats to ever really regain ground in those areas.
My sort of rationale for being pretty stridently opposed to this at the general level is I just think it's going to increase costs for people and reduce choice. I mean, that's the benefit of the deindustrialization, or at least the period that coalesced with that, is rising real incomes and rising choices and lower cost goods. But to your point, I think it is very fair to say that President Trump, it's not as if he's been hiding his viewpoint on this. And so he does have a political mandate in a way that I think has to be respected.
Right. And it's rankled a whole bunch of Republicans in the Senate's going to bring up a bill this week did bring up a bill this week to vote on ending the tariffs, or to basically repudiate the tariffs on Canada. And you've got Republicans such as Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul, lining up with the Democrats to support it because they don't like what Trump is doing with this. But Trump is breaking the mold. The mold, right? He's breaking the ideas that have been at the forefront of the Republican Party for decades. And in a certain sense, he made a hostile takeover of the party, when he ran for president in 2016, and then and the two subsequent elections, and then he's finally implementing that hostile takeover in policy in a way that is going to have lasting ramifications on the party and on the country.
I do think one thing that has to be noted, though, is another concern is how this affects alliances, both in Europe but the Pacific. We see China, South Korea, and Japan coalescing in their own response. Clearly that's a benefit to China, right?
Right, and that was really striking to me. Although I do recall that in the 1980s, Reagan got into a trade war with Japan.
Right.
And they've still been a staunch ally with us since.
Correct.
So I think there's a recognition that this is an economic issue more so than a values issue. Right. And I think maybe you'll end up seeing some sort of reindustrialization in places in Europe and in the Far East that also were affected by international trade. The UK famously has no steel industry now, because of international trade agreements that it has made over the last few decades.
Yeah.
Very similar to the United States.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for joining us today. I'm Tom Rogan, again, joined by Jeremiah Poff. Please subscribe or like wherever you're watching this, and we'll see you again next week.